Hey everybody, it's Dana. Welcome back. Today I'm going to be playing with the Altenew Simple Flower stamp set. I love the boldness of this stamp set and how retro feeling the flowers are. So we're going to be stamping today on some black cardstock. Now the reason I chose black cardstock is because I really love this stamp set and I really feel like it can hold up to some very cool and graphic design features. So I figured stamping in gold and doing it with embossing powder would really give this stamp set some justice today. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a little bit of embossing today. So I grabbed out 3 of the larger flowers and we're going to make a quick background today. So I'm going to grab my Versamark, which is a clear ink, in case you guys didn't know that. And I'm going to get busy stamping out just a random print on my background. So I'm just going to make sure I'm going to press hard so I get a good first impression. But before I go anywhere further, I need to make sure that I go ahead and use my powder tool. Because I'm going to be doing some embossing on this and I'm going to be sprinkling on my gold embossing powder, I don't want it to be sticking to places that it shouldn't stick. And I know that this paper is going to have some static to it, so I want to make sure that I get down that embossing powder before I go any further. So, all right, now I'm going to go ahead and start stamping back out some of those images. Now, these images are pretty solid. They just have a little design in each one of them. So to save time, I'm just going to use one acrylic block with this. As you saw, I just took the one stamp I already had. It was on one side. I just flipped it over, put the other image on the other side of the acrylic block and kept stamping. Now I could have used a Misty tool for this, but to me it was just a little bit easier just for me to use the one acrylic block for this. So I thought maybe I wanted to put the sentiment onto the card panel, but while I was making the card, I chose not to do that. I was like, I think I'm just going to go with the flow and just go ahead and have the background and worry about my sentiment later. So now I'm going to stamp down the third flower. So each one of these flowers, like I said, has a little bit of a different design in them. So what I'm doing now that I have the embossing powder down, I can really see where my design is and try not to over stamp my flowers. So I can kind of see because that powder allows me to see exactly where I'm stamping. So I'm just going to fill in some of those areas, and I'm also making sure to run those flowers off of the paper, because if this was regular paper that you grabbed out of a paper pad, you would have the design running off of the paper. So now what I'm going to do is grab one of the smaller flowers out of that stamp set, and I'm going to fill in some of those open spaces. So that's another thing that when I saw this stamp set that I loved is the versatility of the sizes as well as the design of each one of the flowers. So you can totally make different backgrounds with this or use each flower or each leaf in this set on its own. But you guys know me, I love making backgrounds, and I will link up above and below in the description box some other backgrounds I've made. All right, that looks pretty much covered. So now we're going to go ahead and grab that gold embossing powder. So you can do this with white, you can do it with gold, you can do it with silver, but I thought gold on black would be like so regal. So I'm going to sprinkle a lot. I'm really going to make sure I get really great coverage with this embossing powder. I'm going to go ahead and tap that off. And look how gorgeous that background looks. This is why I love making backgrounds. I think that is like my little niche. I just love making pretty backgrounds. You know, we can all go out and buy the paper pads, which I love. I have a ton of them, but I also love creating my own backgrounds. Now that I have everything stamped out and I have my gold embossing powder down, I can now go back in and fill in some of those areas where I might want to add a couple more of the flowers. So once you have that embossing powder down, now's the time if you want to add in a couple of areas where you think you want to have one or two more flowers just to cover up, a gap or two. This is where you can go ahead and do that because now you can see what areas might need, one or two more flower petals. All right, I think that looks pretty good. And I just love this gold. Oh, this gold is just so pretty. This is by Judikins. It's absolutely gorgeous. So I'm just going to go ahead and flick off some of that excess. And I think I have everything covered. Now I'm just going to go ahead and pour that embossing powder back because I know me, I will spill that all over my craft table. So I'm going to go ahead and seal that up and get that out of the way. And then we can go ahead and start heat embossing this. Now, I love to watch um, embossing powder rather melt because it's like magic. I absolutely love it. So I'm heating up my heat gun until it gets nice and hot. And you can do this and it just speeds up your embossing powder melting and it helps you not to bow your paper as much. So I'm going to get that nice and hot. And then this is when the magic happens. I love it. So that gold that kind of looks more like a greeny gold is now going to be a very vibrant and shiny gold. It's actually so pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I get all of this heat embossed and we get all of that nice and pretty. Look how gorgeous that looks. So I'm going to go ahead and get this done and then I'm going to go ahead and move into the next step. All right, so I went ahead and stamped out one of the sentiments. Now I also want to add some gold onto this sentiment as well. So I'm going to use that Versamark again and just use it right across the bottom. So I went ahead and cut out a little fishtail on on a sentiment strip, and I'm going to add just a little bit of that gold right across the bottom. I'm going to tap off the extra, and then I can go ahead and grab a paintbrush and I can just clean up my line and just make it a little bit straight. Now you don't have to do this step, but I just wanted to bring a little bit of that touch of gold onto my sentiment strip. So I'm just going to flick off a little bit of that extra that might be laying around because here I did not use my embossing buddy or my embossing tool. Not embossing tool, oh my God, my EK Success powder tool rather. So I'm going to go ahead and heat that, and that's just going to bring a nice bit of gold touch. See that right along the bottom? Just brings a little bit of that gold up onto this white strip. All right, now we can go ahead and put together the card. I went ahead and cut down my card panel with a die so it has just a little bit of stitching around that panel. And look how striking. Isn't that beautiful? It makes such a bold, bold card with those beautiful flowers out of that set. Now I want my sentiment to pop up, so I'm going to use some foam tape for this. But you see how pretty that is? Now you're not ever going to find paper that looks like this because you've created it on your own. And it's yours. And it's fabulous. I absolutely love doing this. All right, now that is done, I'm going to add some gems right to the end of my sentiments. That's why I left a little bit of space so I can add some pretty little gems. I'm going to pick that back up just a little bit because it looks like my sentiment's a tad bit crooked, or my panel rather. I'm going to pop that down and look how gorgeous those flowers look. Such a retro feel to me. I absolutely love it. But I'm thinking that gold on that sentiment strip is not popping enough for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a gold gel pen and I'm going to make some dash lines because that gold to me is not standing out enough on my sentiment strip, and I want to make sure that I continuously add that gold upward into that sentiment strip. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a few little faux dash marks, so they look like stitch marks, onto my sentiment strip. And I think that will work for me. So I'm just going to finish that off and the card's going to be done. This was a super easy card today. Super easy. All right, and that is done. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today and go make something pretty. Make your own background paper. You will absolutely love it. I swear. All right, you guys have a fantastic day and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.